Today's telecast of True Hope Today. Today I'm going to start a series on spiritual warfare. If you look with me to 1 Peter 5:8, it reads, "Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." You know, each of you must ask yourself at some time, what can I do about these problems that are so widespread and serious these days? And how helpful can I really expect to be as an individual? The scriptures have an answer to these questions. We might expect that they would, for they are designed to perfect the man of God, that he may be perfect, completely furnished unto every good work, as it tells us in 2 Timothy 3:17. So we should expect that there would be ample guidance given in the scriptures to enable us to handle the problems and questions which pursue us on every side. The passage we are going to center our thoughts upon for the next few telecasts is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, the first 6 verses. Here's another of those pockets of condensed wisdom which you find frequently through the pages of scriptures, both in the Old Testament and the New alike, in which it is very unwise to hasten through. This kind of a passage must be gone through slowly and thoughtfully. And therefore I propose that we take ample time. I want to make these messages as practical and as helpful to as many as possible. The introduction to this section of 2 Corinthians is found in verse 1 through 4. When the Apostle Paul, writing to his friends in Corinth, probably from the city of Ephesus, says, "I, Paul myself, entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. I who am humble when face to face with you, but bold to you when I'm away. I beg of you that when I am present, I may not have to show boldness with such confidence as I count on showing against some who suspect us of acting in worldly fashion. For though we live in a world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. For the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds." That's the first 4 verses of 2 Corinthians chapter 10. In these verses, we have brought before us the primary theme of this section. The background of it is a challenge to the authority of Apostle Paul by the Corinthians. There were some among them who were seeking to undermine the effect of Paul's words, both in his letters and in his preaching to them. You know, that's not surprising. You know, that's still going on today. There are many today who object strenuously to what he teaches. In certain circles, we are told that the Apostle Paul actually changed the teachings of the Lord Jesus and thus changed Christianity from a simple, easy understood message to a highly complicated theological treatise, difficult to understand, and completely different in intent and content from that which was preached by Jesus. Something of that had already started in the early church. When these Corinthians had received letters from Paul, some were angered by them and resisted strongly what he had said. Specifically, as this passage reveals, certain Christians in Corinth were saying that Paul was essentially no different than anyone else. His apostleship really gave him no more right to speak with authority than anyone else had, and his motivations were essentially the same as anyone's. He is out to get what he wants by whatever policy will work. Paul was quoting them when he writes, "I who am humble when face to face with you, but bold to you when I'm away." Excuse me. You know, they were saying this was his procedure, his maneuver to try to get us to do what he wants. In other words, they were saying he is simply another religious figure who is playing the old game of power politics. So we do not need to pay any more attention to him than we would to anyone else who came in and tried to take advantage of us for his own purposes. This the Apostle Paul promptly and powerfully repudiates. He says, in effect, this is not the case. You Corinthians are quite wrong. You have failed to recognize the fundamental change which occurs in a Christian. When a man becomes a Christian, something fundamental, something absolutely radical occurs in him so that he cannot see things as he once did. Furthermore, you do not understand the radical difference with which an apostle, who is, by virtue of his office, a model Christian, a pattern for others, must face in life day to day. If you think that I act like other people, that my motives, purposes, and goals are no different than ordinary men and women, then you have fundamentally misunderstood the whole matter. For he goes on to say in verses 3 and 4, though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. We are not carrying on a worldly war, for the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. In the literal Greek, the Apostle Paul does not say quite what is said here. The phrase, for though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war, is actually, for though we walk or live in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. The revisers here have substituted the word world for flesh, yet this is not exactly wrong. They are recognizing the close affiliation between what the Bible calls the flesh and society or the world. These two are closely combined and associated. So what is the flesh? You who have been studying the New Testament for years know that the flesh is essentially inherited selfishness. It is what is basically wrong with human nature. It is a monkey wrench which was inserted into the machinery of humanity at the very beginning, and which we all inherit from our ancestors. It is responsible for the fact that all of us began life with a taint, a twist in our mechanism. It is not very long before it is quite apparent that we are fundamentally selfish. You did not have to send him to a private school to learn how to be naughty when you're teaching a baby to be selfish, but how to be naughty or to resist his parents or to be inherently selfish. You don't have to teach a baby this. This taint crops up in any individual, no matter what kind of background, exposure, or environment he is subjected to. It is in the bloodstream of humanity. This is the unpleasant fact which society constantly resists, which man does not want to face, but which the Word of God bluntly and clearly states. If that is the flesh, that tendency to evil in every individual, then if you put all these flesh-centered, flesh-governed people together in a society, you have what the Bible calls the world. It is a society governed by the flesh, society with all the power structures with which we are so familiar in this day, all built upon self-interest. This, as any observer of human life can see, pervades the world of our day. Self-interest is the back of everything. That's why the revisers have substituted the word world here. You know, in a sense, they're right. This is clearly the idea the apostle has in mind. He says, we're not acting like other people. We do not operate from the same motives. There is something quite different about us. If you try to judge us on the same basis you judge others, you're going to be very far off. You will miss a point entirely. So, Paul, he's declaring also the fundamental tension in which a Christian lives. He says, we live in the flesh, in the world of normal society, but we do not fight on those terms. We are not carrying on a worldly war. You know, notice the exquisite balance and sanity of that. The Apostle Paul is speaking not only for himself, but for all Christians. No, says the apostle, we live in the flesh. We live in the world. That is where we are intended to live. Yet, says Paul, though we live in the world and do not run away from society, still we do not use human plans and methods to win the battles. You know, it's important that we understand that, because here is where all the problems has come. Many have recognized that Christians are to live in the world, but they go on to assume that a Christian living in the world must be like the world, that he must think like the world, that he must depend upon the thoughts, the philosophies, the ideas and writers of the world, and draw all his arguments and his solutions to problem from these sources. But Paul says, no, you are quite wrong there. If you judge me as doing this, then you have not understood the Christian position at all. We do not use human plans and methods to win our battles. Herein my judgment is the fundamental error of those who seek to make social concern the primary task of a church today. They are opposing the right enemy, but with the wrong weapons. They are seeking to employ the weapons of a world, which Paul renounces. He repudiates them entirely. He says, we do not war a worldly warfare. We do not use plans and methods to win our battles. What are these weapons of a world? These human plans and methods to win battles? Well, you can hardly escape them today. They are on every side. In every newspaper, every magazine you pick up, these are full of approaches to the solution of human problems. They are all perfectly sincere, often characterized by tremendous dedication and zeal and commendable in the extreme, but they are worldly. They are of the flesh, and they are limited. You know, these weapons are power, politics, action blocks, organized programs, demonstrations, boycotts, picketing, and even violence and arson. Let us face some facts plainly. These are not clearly worldly weapons, are they not? Anyone who reads the New Testament sees that this is always the way of the world. Its solutions are fundamentally shallow and superficial because they are essentially one-dimensional. I was interested recently to learn that there is a new book out written by a secular writer called The One-Dimensional Man. It's an attempt, I gathered, to come to grips with some of the social issues today, but even worldlings can see that their approach lacks something. It's one-dimensional. Yeah, this is not what you have in the New Testament. This is not how a Christian should approach these problems. As the Apostle Paul put it in this very letter, just a few chapters back, we look not at the things which are seen, but also at the unseen. We look not only to the temporal, but also to the eternal, which you can find back in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. You know, there's a new dimension that must come in here. The Christian approach to any basic problem, whether of society or in an individual life, must be different than that of a worldling if he expects to win any battles. You know, the wonderful thing about scriptures is that life is constantly confirming them. Life is a kind of laboratory in which all these scriptural principles are being tested, worked out for us, okay? We can then see for ourselves, if we observe enough of life over a long enough span, which is right and which is wrong. So which is right and which is wrong? Worldly solution or the scripture solution. History confirms the fact that the world's weapons do not win battles. There are no secular solutions that work. At best, they only temporarily rearrange the symptoms of a problem. You know, that is the most we can hope for from a worldly approach. No, says Paul, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not fleshly. They are not worldly, but they are mighty. They have divine power unto the pulling down of strongholds. They work. They win. They destroy strongholds. They overthrow entrenched evil. They strike off shackles. They set men free. That's what they're for. If they do not do that, they are worthless. They are no better than any other program, but they are effective. Well, what are these weapons? That's the major issue I want to face with you now. What are these weapons if they are not normal human plans? So I ask, what are they? If they do not include these approaches that are so common today, then what are they? Now I wonder what you are answering in your own minds to that question. How many Christians can answer this question? What are the weapons with which we are to encounter the problems, the battles of life? You know, the interesting thing is that Paul so takes it for granted that his readers would know that he does not even list them. We must read them in the next text from other places. He takes it for granted that they would know what his weapons are. You know, all of us face problems. Normal, common problems. Depression, discouragement, ill health, lack of money, social pressures, family troubles, in-laws, greed, guilt, shame. You know, as a society, we face problems together. Race tensions, war, poverty, air and water pollution, inflation, death, taxes, all these common problems. These are battles, the battles of life, are they not? Very few of us will have to fight on the battlefields of Vietnam. Some will, but not all. Here are the battles of life. These are what Paul calls in this passage strongholds. We shall look at the word more closely in my next telecast, but these are the strongholds he mentions, situations where evil is entrenched and powerful. Yet he has adequate weapons for these. That's the thing I wish to convey to you now. The Christian is not inadequate to deal with these things. He is the only one who is adequate to deal with them. Therefore, let us not waste our time with things that have proved their inadequacy long ago. We have adequate weapons. I can only briefly list them in this message. I shall have to develop them more as we go on in this passage, but it is important to have them before us at this moment. They come not from any other specific passage, but from a general thrust of Scripture. Supported by many passages, I shall list for you 4 weapons of the Christian by which we can face the battles of life. In which, if he faces them with these weapons, he'll win. Not only will he win in his individual life, but he will be a tremendously powerful factor to solve them on the level of society as well. Now, in my next telecast, we're going to continue this looking at tearing down strongholds, and we'll get into these 4 weapons that I mentioned earlier that by which a Christian can face the battles of life with. And if he faces them with these weapons, he'll win in life. And the first one I'll be talking about next telecast is truth. And I'm going to finish this telecast on this note. God's Word is truth. Jesus Christ is truth. And as we look into that further next telecast, we'll expound on the truth and have an encounter with the truth. Until the next time, may God bless you and keep you.
I'm Dr. Timothy, Senior Ministry Leader, inviting you to learn more about us. Our message is that the Lord Jesus Christ is mankind's only true hope. Now, what makes True Hope Ministries somewhat unique is our mission, which is to help you do what God has called you to do. Each member of True Hope shares in this commitment of helping one another in their respective endeavors of what God has called them to do. Now, beyond what's typically offered by ministry fellowships, the greatest resource of True Hope Ministries is what we call ministry companionship. Now, ministry companionship is simply the members of True Hope Ministries investing in the success of each other within our fellowship. Plus, we encourage our ministers to also meet opportunities to invest into the success of other ministers in their local church communities. Ministry companionship is based on two primary principles. First, that by the Lord's giftings and our own ministry experiences, each of us holds pieces for the success of others in ministry. And second, those ordained in ministry service, especially leadership in ministry, should not mean becoming spiritually and emotionally isolated. Yet so many in ministry suffer from this very malady. You know, as adverse conditions, even aggressive actions against the church increasingly develop in America, ministry servants and leaders of ministry cannot afford to be without genuine ministry companions. If you or someone you know in ministry sees the need for ministry companionship, please visit our website. And you know, we'd be so glad to talk with you, so give us a call. The call is toll free, and if I can't answer your call at the moment, please leave a message, because I promise I'll return your call just as soon as I can, because I really do look forward to helping you do what God has called you to do.